Reddit, what were you fired for? I got fired from my cake decorating job at Baskin-Robbins for making a cake that said Happy Yak Shaving Day and placing said yak cake in display case. Edit. So, here is the deal. I was like 15/16 at the time. The boss was this really awful lady with serious control issues. When we were in between holidays, we would keep the cake case stocked with blank cakes. And I thought, fuck it. This is hilarious. And created my masterpiece. Boss came in. Saw it instantly. I had been chastised for not making blank cakes before. And just loses her shit. She unleashes the hellhounds of confectioner's lower franchise management. As I was being yelled at. Dude comes in. Hears the screaming and asks to buy the cake. She refuses. He refuses to leave and demands to speak to the manager. Long story short. I went home with my last paycheck and he got the cake. And sorry. No pictures. Apparently it's not safe to operate heavy machinery while intoxicated. When I was 18 I was working at a video rental store and was fired for stealing money. Which I didn't do. It was found out later that the son of the owners was taking the money to buy drugs. I was never apologized to. But was told, well, I am glad I fired you anyway. You would have stolen money from me sooner or later. This was overheard by a member of the city council, who was in charge of businesses in the town. 3 days later, he went out of business. I sent a co-worker a text of a creepy clown saying my name was Bobo. I said shit like I'm stalking you. And other stuff. Then we got super busy at work and I forgot to text her back saying it was me. Her parents called the cops. And they traced it back to me. I was pretty stupid. Telling my boss, I'll be in on Monday if you have shit for me to do. But I'm not pushing a broom for 30 hours again this week. He said don't bother coming in anymore. I didn't. Having a temporary summer job during college and being 2 days away from becoming a member of the union, you're automatically in after 90 days. Union employees receive $3 more an hour. I gave my friends free ice cream. Edit. Seriously though. Stealing hurts everyone because it makes prices go up and that isn't cool. No matter how cool ice cream is. Edit 2. Sup CC. 4th degree sexual misconduct. I told a DCK joke. At a minimum wage job Edit. I should mention that I told it to my friend when he came through. I was overheard by someone who didn't like me and they told the manager that I was saying really gross sexual stuff. So that happened haha. Edit 2. Spelling. Edit 3. Since everyone is asking, here was the situation. I was serving hot dogs and my friend was next in line. I looked at him and said AWW man, I can't wait to get your hot dog later, and winked like yo, apparently that's not okay. WHO knew. I had finally averaged enough hours to force the company to make me full-time. Next day. Pink slip. I worked at a movie theater. I got fired for washing out used drinking cups, adding them for inventory, selling them to customers and pocketing the profit. I worked in a bakery from when I was 16 to just before my 18th birthday. The boss didn't want to pay me higher wages for being over 18. The stupid thing was it was cash and handwork. He could have just continued paying whatever he wanted. I worked for a collection agency years ago for 7 days. I had been misled and did not know I was going to be working collections, but the money was good and I went through the week of training. The second week I'm on my own and this guy calls in and he is confused why he is in collections. He was a priest and his wife had a brain tumor and he ended up being exempt from the bills. I told him just to fax us over a copy of the paperwork and we would look at it. My manager called me over a little while later and explained that the paperwork was for another hospital. So I was like, okay, I should just tell him to fill out the same forms for the other hospital. He responded with, you could do that. Or you can do your job and get me his money. I called him back and told him what to do and was fired a few minutes later. Thanks for the NSFW tag. Judge, I got fired once for making out with another coworker and having sex in one of the hotel rooms. She kept telling me I didn't have the balls to do it. We worked at the front desk in a hotel that was usually not busy after 12 p.m. I finally decided to prove her wrong and my boss stepped in just as I was kissing her. He just stood there at the door with a grin. I think someone must have told on us because we made sure to step in the room one at a time. And I double checked around me to make sure no one saw us. Still got fired for it. Edit number 1. For all people concerned about the facts because I worded my response oddly. I did have sex with this woman after and it was fking awesome. We got caught having sex because I didn't kiss her at first. We jumped straight to intercourse because we were rushing it. And just as I was kissing her for the first time my boss stepped in. There. Getting hit by a car. Guy slid on the ice. Up onto the sidewalk and knocked me out into the middle of a 4-lane street. Was asked by management if I really got hit. Because she heard I just got bumped. Took 3 years of therapy and surgery to get my knee back to semi-normal. Edit. My highest ranking comment is about being screwed over by a multinational supplement company. Woot and thanks. I was a bank teller and I didn't want to push credit products on poor people. Boss said he thought I'd be happier somewhere else. He was right. I got fired after a couple of co-workers who didn't like me found out I was a burlesque performer. They went to HR and said that my out-of-office activities was offensive and impedes upon my ability to successfully manage people and I was browsing S&M websites while at work. The S&M website one of them saw was my model mayhem profile, where I was wearing an latex outfit, dressed as a superhero and had nothing to do with S&M. This company paid me very well to leave quickly and quietly. Years ago, I was a waiter in a nice restaurant at a popular ski resort in Vermont. The general manager fired me because of my attitude. Apparently he didn't like me spell checking and grammar checking the menus and wine lists for him. The owner asked me back the next day. I declined. But the general manager that fired me was eventually let go. Edit. For everyone guessing. It was at Stratton. I used to work for FedEx Express in the Memphis hub loading aircraft. One day, I hit the engine of an Airbus A310, we called them the baby bus, with a loader while backing it away from the airplane after it was fully loaded. I took a chunk out of the metal cowling on the front of the engine. I was subsequently fired, after a brief investigation, and probably cost the company upwards of $1 million. I worked in a call center for 6 whole days. It was for a catalog clothing company. I was trained on the job. On my first day unsupervised, a guy called in and yelled at me for his parcels being left in the rain. I explained that was nothing to do with us and he got more angry and said I kept messing up his order and had sent him the wrong size and the wrong thing before and he wants this put right. He called me a bunch of names and said I was really stupid and clearly can't do my job. I explained I was new. I couldn't control what is sent or how it is posted. But I would go get my manager as he needs to speak to someone more senior than myself. I transferred him over. And the person next to me asked if I was okay. I said no. The guy was really mean to me. How did he think it was me? A phone monkey. Who controlled his mail? Turns out, I never transferred him over properly. He heard me and complained to the manager. After working manual labor and phone sales for years, I finally got a position in a large corporate office with AC, benefits, paid vacation, and all kinds of other perks. Great, right? Well, it was until I got the idea that the admin pool were part of the benefits and got caught having sex with one of the young ladies that worked in said pool in the underground parking garage. It was worth it though, as the fun I had with that particular young woman lasted for long after the job ended and was worthy of a penthouse letter story. My boss complained that his wife wouldn't put out a week after having a miscarriage. I tried to politely explain that maybe she wasn't in the mood after a D&C and mental trauma. And he got mad and said the least she could do was suck him off. I told him to eat the corn out of my tea and dumped a can of refried beans in the deep fryer. I don't miss kitchen prep work in the slightest. Edit. Thank you for gilding me. That was very kind of you. Unlike my CNT of a former boss. E2. Guild. Sorry. I got fired from my first job at my school bookstore because I was a dumbass. I worked Fridays from 9 AM to 6 PM since I had no class that day, but I was always late. It was freshman year. And Thirsty Thursdays were in full effect. So I would always be late and hungover on Friday. I would watch TV shows at the cash register computer. Complain about having to help the customers. And basically play with my DCK all day. My dumb friends would come into the store all the time when I was working to just screw with me or distract me. And the manager always had to ask them to leave. I was also very inappropriate. I would talk to students about my awesome blackout last night right in front of parents. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. Point is, I got fired because I was a terrible employee. I'm really glad it happened though. Because it made me aware of how to behave in an office work environment. I got caught having sex with a waitress in the walk-in cooler of the bar I worked at. Pants around my ankles. Hiked up her skirt. Bent her over a keg. General manager walked in. Apparently we were not allowed to do that. I was drunk. In late December 2011. Had been warned a few weeks earlier. It was third shift at FedEx. I had a pint of vodka the night before. And then while we waited for the plane to arrive. At 6 AM. I drove down the street for a 40 Oz. Of natural ice. Back in the break room I challenged the biggest dude to a good-natured arm wrestling match. I was defeated. Symbolically as well. After returning from the plane, material handler, I stumbled inside until the manager escorted me to his office. He asked if I thought I had a drinking problem. Yes. They were going to send me for a breathalyzer, but while I waited for them to return I let myself out. 3 years there. Dot. I'm happy to say I'm now 28 days sober. Edit update. I'm dunk rit now, whoops SRY guys. Close bracket. In college. I was working at an Applebee's. I had put in my 2-week notice and this happened on day 12. A woman was complaining about how her iced tea was cloudy. I made a joke about our municipal water supply. Turns out, she was on the board of the municipal water company. She later called my manager and threatened to call corporate if he didn't do something about me. Double quote. Well, I was fired. FCK that lady. Can you imagine getting someone fired for something so stupid? Attending my cousin's funeral. Management said immediate family only were considered. Child, grandparent plus siblings. We were as close as brothers. Closer than my actual brothers. They said I would be fired if I didn't skip his funeral to stock their hungry man dinners and frozen juice. I told them they had better put the help wanted sign in the window. For bad attitude and being a disappointment. Meaning I didn't want to do unpaid overtime, or agree to take on a workload I know I can't finish on time, and didn't have my nose up in my boss asshole. When I was in high school, I worked at a department store and was fired for using too many coupons for purchases. I figured out a way to override their system and use several coupons from their coupon booklets to reduce all of my purchases to just pennies. Loss prevention was not alerted of the suspicious transactions because they could not see purchases less than $2.00. Eventually they found out. I got interrogated by the police. My dad had to pay them for what I owed and I was fired. They now have a very strict coupon policy that I may or may not have had something to do with. I was fired for making my store open late on a Sunday. We opened late because my boss had taken my key to close on Saturday night. And wouldn't answer his phone in church. FCK that chipmunk looking. Zach Galifianakis in the campaign talking like Moth Efka. I was a bartender at the same bar for 8 years. Showed up to work drunk as a skunk after competing in a drinking challenge. My boss didn't care. Drinking and working was normal, until I overheard him talking about me across the bar. I proceeded to tell him and the entire bar how I felt about him work. Needless to say I didn't have to finish my shift that night. I was told later if I apologized I could have my job back. I told him where to stick it. Now I have a much better job in a much better career. So the whole experience was worth it in the end. TLDR, I FK'd my boss off across the bar at work and got the boot. I was fired once for not ever showing up to work after my first day. It took them 3 months to fire me. They had an automated system to call out sick. So I never actually had to talk to anyone. I just simply called out and kept sleeping. I miss being young and not having any real responsibilities. Around 17 I was fired by the owner. She was belittling me, as she did to all of her employees. And I started mocking her. Stunned, she asked me what my problem was. I told her that if she wasn't such a BTCH to her employees, people might respect her. She fired me and kicked me off of them premises. For life. I went back about a year later to get some chow and her husband was working the register. As soon as he looked at me he told me that I wasn't allowed there. The fact that he recognized my face from a year prior suggested to me that not many people had the stones to tell that BTCH off. I was working at a grocery store in the bakery. I dropped a muffin on the ground and ate some of it instead of throwing it out. I got fired for stealing. It probably didn't help that I was working full-time hours as a part-timer. But that's their fault for making me a lead. I did animal husbandry for a research facility, cleaning, feeding, playing with the animals, etc. Really fun but really lonely. I could go an 8-hour shift without seeing another person. I also wore earplugs. The animals could get exceptionally loud around feeding time. But this added to my feelings of isolation. So I started singing to my animals while I cleaned my rooms. They seemed to enjoy it. One day I'm singing Crazy Rap, Colt 45, by Afroman. I was really getting into it. Hosing down urine pans, practically screaming. I ate that PSS while like shrimp fried rice. When I heard someone yell my name. Apparently I'd forgotten to check my email that day as a representative for a pharmaceutical company was doing a facility tour. I turned around to see my manager standing there with the most severe mom glare I've ever seen. And a businessman trying really hard to keep a straight face. There was no talking my way out of that one. My buddy and I gained access to the Burger King POS system, nothing special. In 1998 it was just running on DOS Windows 3.11 and made all the registers say welcome to Burger King. Would you like a F King Whopper? Double quote. I don't know. And it pisses me off that I don't know. I get called in and told you are not up to our high standards. We are letting you go. I have tried contacting HR but I never get a response. I got fired when I was 18 years old from Circuit City because my 16-year-old sister died and I refused to work instead of going to her funeral. I wasn't all that bothered by the loss of the job comparatively. I was working in SoCal. They found out I had bought land in NorCal. I guess you will leave sometime and move there, so you should leave the firm now. Being late twice. One day was 2 minutes. The other day was 5 minutes. The worst part is that there were so many offenders of this policy, like 15+ minutes late 3-4 times a week, yet I was terminated. Small victory. After he said, "I'm terminating you. You should clock out." I said, "No thanks. See ya later, Terminator," and promptly walked out. Working at a place too long. I worked at a place with 80-90% yearly turnover. From 1 month to the next the staff could almost completely change. I managed to stay there 2.5 years until, as I was later told, the owner saw me and asked how much I was making at that point and told my manager to fire me when he heard I was making a few dollars an hour over the current starting wage. I was a good enough employee to not get fired, which meant I had to be fired. When I asked, I was told because I wasn't fitting in with the team. I asked a co-worker later and apparently that meant the other catty girls there didn't like that I did my job and there's making them feel bad. The owner also had a party every Friday night. I am not much of a drinker so never went. Turns out he used it as an opportunity to get my co-workers drunk and mess around. He didn't like that I wouldn't give him an opportunity to take advantage apparently.